Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I have a spooky Halloween video. Ooh, it's not actually spooky at all, but it is intended to be a Halloween themed video, so a Halloween themed doll repaint. I actually intend to have 2 more Halloween repaints coming at you guys this month, and I mean, they're not the goriest of Halloween repaints, but I'm really liking how they're turning out, and I hope you guys do too. So in my last repaint, I repainted a Cave Club doll, and I talked to you guys about how I just really like those dolls. Like if you guys want to repaint one, I think they're great. But I also specifically saw a lot of potential in their bodies because they're the only dolls that I know of at this scale that are this articulated. Around the time that I picked up the Cave Club dolls and like kind of fell in love with them, I also picked up 2 heads off of eBay that were both like really tiny and adorable. I think the one is a Miko doll head and the other one, the Tanner one, I have no idea what it is. So if anybody knows, let me know down below. But I saw them and I was like, oh my goodness, these would look so cute on the Cave Club bodies. I decided that I had to make these 2 a pair because they just went really well together. Like their heads are similar scale and they're both going on Cave Club bodies, so we're doing 2 dolls today. Woo! That's a lot. It's gonna be a lot. This video is gonna be long. Alright, so what are we doing with these 2 tiny headed babies? What we're doing is, so you know in an anime, when you got the lady in an anime and she wears a kimono and she's real cute and she's also a demon, that's what we're doing. It did not occur to me until halfway through this project that this is actually an oni. Like, I genuinely didn't know. I always think of an oni as being like that red demon thing with like the big teeth, but I guess this is also an oni. I guess it's a very wide term. Specifically, we're turning these 2 dolls into silver and gold demon sisters. So let's get into it. Obviously, this neck peg is a little long, so we gotta cut it down. And I actually bought this nail dust collector off of Amazon, and it basically sucks in dust from when you're cutting stuff or you're sanding stuff. I think it's pretty useful. Once I cut the neck peg down, it's doing like this bobblehead thing, so this is not a permanent fix, but I took a little bit of sticky putty and I just put that on top of the neck and then I put the head on and it sticks in place. Is this like the most permanent fix? No. Am I gonna probably have to find something a little bit better? Yes, but it works out okay. Like their heads are staying on. Y'all, look at this daggone beautiful hybrid. I'm so here for this. Like, I think this combination looks so cute. These little demon babies need some horns, so I'm taking some epoxy sculpt and I'm mixing it with my gloves on. And normally I would take a bit of armature wire and stab that through the head and out through the neck hole. However, the head of these dolls is not hollow, so you can't stab it through the head and then out through the neck hole. I'm just sculpting on top of the head because these heads are very hard, so I'm not worried about the epoxy like popping off or anything because they're not squishy at all. We're making the tiniest of horns for the tiniest of heads. These heads are really like, they're the size of a quarter. So tiny. Y'all may have noticed that the paler head has some schmutz on her face. What this is, so I really wanted a Miko doll sculpt. Like, I think their sculpt is really pretty, but I couldn't find one on eBay. So I found this one and it was basically painted with a defect. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll just like take the paint off. When I went to take the paint off with acetone, this black remained on the eyes, and I believe it's because the seller like repainted the face with magic marker probably. So I had to paint over top of it with acrylic paint. I sprayed the doll 3 times with Mr. Super Clear, waiting 15 minutes between each spray and wearing a respirator mask, and then I get into the face up. I did 1 coat of the acrylic paint, and I did the next coat with pan pastels because acrylic paint can look very like chunky and streaky super fast, so I wanted to avoid that obviously because that's not cute. We're starting out with the silver demon, and for the eyes, these Miko doll heads have very defined eye molds, and it's a really pretty shape, so I'm just sort of tracing over that. These dolls with really hard heads, the pastels and pencils show up super pigmented on them, which is really cool, but also it can be I don't know, like I'm sort of used to the softer vinyl, so it's sort of shocking, I guess. But that's why it's picking up pastels and pencils so well. I begin blushing by adding light pink on the cheeks, chin, forehead, and nose, and ears. I add light blue pan pastel on the forehead, like around the brow bone, underneath the eyes, on the upper lip, and the chin. I've been asked in the past why I add blue tones to my doll's skin, and that's because I like the blue tones that are in skin tones. I know that a lot of the time they're way more subtle, and I sort of play them up a little bit, and that's because it's a stylistic choice. Oh my god, my cat, she coughed. Like, I know that it's not the most realistic choice, but I'm also not going for the most realistic style. I shade on the outer and inner portion of the upper and lower eyelid with brown pastel so that the middle of the eye is left bare or not shaded. This is so that it looks like the eye is protruding or more three-dimensional. Veins! I love veins. I feel like I'm like so creepy when I say that, but I genuinely like them on dolls. I'm adding branch-like pencil marks around the eyes, so the upper and lower part of the eye, and then also around the forehead. I'm being very soft with this blue pencil because it's super pigmented on this really hard head. I thought giving each of the demons the opposite color eyes would be kind of cool and sort of make the eyes stand out more because these dolls are very monochromatic. So I gave the silver doll like yellow or gold eyes, and the gold doll gets silver eyes. Since the eyes are very like dark and brown at the moment with all that shading, I take a white colored pencil and I'm adding really sharp sort of definitional lines around the wrinkles of the eyes to brighten them back up. This is a bit of a before and after. The right eye has the white pencil highlights and the left eye doesn't. For even more intense highlights, listen, I like highlighting eyes. I'm taking white wet watercolor pencil and I'm just adding in even more brightness to those eyes. The eyebrow shape I decided to go with for this demon was very like Spock-like. She looks a little bit angry by the time I'm done, but I kind of dig how each of these demon faces have a very specific feel to them. With really light yellow watercolor, I'm going around the eyes and creating a sort of ring to give them a glowing effect. I add gold metallic watercolor to the left side of the ring just so that it has a metallic effect on that side. I tap some gold Pearl X pigment on top of her pupil so that it looks all sparkly. When I do lashes on dolls, I've been really liking Faber-Castell's black watercolor pencil lately because it's a very hard pencil, and I like that about it because when I flick the lashes up, I have a lot of control to them and I can make them very thin because of how hard the pencil is. When it comes to like Derwent or some other brands, I find that like they're more pigmented, but they're a little bit softer, so I don't have as much control when I flick the lashes, whereas when I use Faber-Castell's, because it's so hard, I get a lot of control. I know that's very specific, but I figured I'd mention it because I've been really digging it when it comes to face-ups lately. I add metallic rose gold and white dots to the waterline. So I got a comment a little bit ago asking me why I add white freckles to my dolls' faces, which I don't. So what I'm doing here, you see I'm putting white dots on the doll's face. This is a stylistic choice. I kind of, when I'm doing these, I'm sort of going for, you know, like on anime faces, how they have like a sort of glowiness to their cheeks. You know that? That's kind of what I'm going for. I do it in traditional art as well, and I just like the way it looks. If you don't, sorry about it. I add Vallejo gloss varnish to her lips and her face up is done. And it's so tiny and cute. I swear, you guys, these heads are the tiniest. I'll show you guys it next to a normal, like, you know, fashion doll, but they're so small. On to face up number 2. So this doll's eyes are way less intensely molded on than the Miko doll head. It still has like a very light mold to them, and the mold eye shape is very sad, and I like that. So I sort of traced over the mold that it already had, and it gave her these like sad little eyes that I feel like lends to her character. She's my sad demon baby. I'm blushing the gold demon's face in a very similar way to how I did the silver demon's, but since this doll has a tanner complexion, I'm basically using similar colors but the darker versions. So a like more deep pinky peach color, a deeper blue, a deeper brown to shade around the face. Also, I know guys, the blue looks very intense here. Once I spray it with MSC, it dulls down quite a bit. Any light color, once you spray with MSC, it dulls down quite a lot. So the highlights as well look really intense when I get to those. But again, spray it with MSC, it's way more dulled down. Some people may not like this, but I really like how sunburnt this doll's face looks. Like, I think it looks really cute. She looks like she has like a little cute tan. This gold demon has one honkin' big 5 head, so I'm shading around the forehead with like a mauvey brown pastel. I went in with silver pastel on a Q-tip to give this doll her silver or gray eyes. For the brows, I went in with yellow pastel and I gave her like a straight innocent brow moment, but once I spray her, this pastel is gone. It left the building. It does not come back. I go over it with paint and pencils to bring it back. The next doll that I'll be posting actually has a deeper complexion than this doll, and it's just sort of funny with these like deeper complexion dolls how the MSC just eats pastels. Like, it's just gone. Like, where does it go? I'm genuine, like, I have questions. Okay, does it go into the vinyl? Does it just poof out of the air? Where does it go? I went on top of the pupil with silver Pearl X powder, and then I added a little dot of silver watercolor on top of it to make the silver on the pupils even more intense. I shade around the white of the eye with a very light blue watercolor pencil. I throw copious amounts of macro Pearl X pigment all over the face. In retrospect, I have a gold version of this pigment and I probably should have used that because this is the gold demon, but you know, that would make sense. Whoopsies. I've mentioned this in face-ups in the past, but I figure I'll mention it again. So I like to sketch out the eye shines with a white watercolor pencil and then go over it with paint. This is so that I can get just the exact shape that I want for the eye shines. I like it because sometimes I mess them up and I have to sit there and like get the paint off, and sometimes it smears the paint underneath and it's just really annoying. So I just feel like you can really perfect the shape that you want when you sketch over it first. I know her eyebrows look very intense and bleached. I like that look. So when it comes to like eyebrows or hair or whatever, I really like extremes. So I like very like light sort of bleached looking eyebrows, or I like very dark eyebrows. I don't really like medium toned eyebrows, so I like this very light look that she has going on. I added a bit of the gold metallic paint on top of her lashes to give it like a sort of highlighted metallic look. I really like how it turned out. I do the same with the silver on the silver demon. And here's how my little demon sisters turned out. So these ladies are very bald and we need to give them some hair. So I'm painting the scalps in their respective colors, so silver and gold. With my Arteza metallic watercolors, I painted the tips of the doll's horns as well. Since I had my paint cup out, I figured I'd do it while I was painting her scalp. But I wanted to give them an ombre, so I'm just painting the tips with the gold paint and then sort of fading it as it gets lower. And then I did the same exact thing with the silver paint for the silver doll. Back onto the hair. So I already had some silver acrylic yarn wefts prepped and I just had to make my gold ones. So I took this chunky gold yarn and I'm cutting it pretty chaotically. Like, I'm eyeballing the length. Also, isn't my desk nasty? That's from Epoxy Sculpt. Like, it will not come off. So rude. It looks gross. So I gotta figure something out about that. I just can't stand it. I'm tying the yarn wefts to this thing. I'm not going to identify what I think it is because every single time I do, people are like, no, it's this in the comments. So this thing is what we're tying it to. And then I'm brushing it out with a cat brush starting at the bottom and working my way up. Once it's all nice and brushed out, I'm taking my hair straightener and I'm straightening all that yarn. To make wefts, we cut the yarn off and then I put it on a freezer bag and I take Elmer's glue and I just glue the very top of it. After that's all nice and dry, you just trim it down and it's a weft. We gotta glue this hair to this head, so I'm taking Elmer's glue wall and I'm basically, with these wefts, I'm just working my way up from the bottom. To do the part, you just take a weft, you glue it down, and then you flip it. If you guys want a more in-depth video on how to do hair and how to do yarn hair and all this stuff, I'm gonna link down below the man, well actually not the man, the myth, the legend, Miss JackyOhhhxo. I feel like if you do yarn hair, you probably watched her. She's how I learned how to make hair like this, so I'll link her down below. This is how their hair turned out. It's pretty cute. Alrighty, we need some clothes for these dolls because they butt-ass naked. So to get the pattern, I am tracing around the doll just so I can like sort of get her measurements. And at this point, I sort of eyeball patterns, which is probably why my clothes turn out like they do. They look a little messy and crazy. But we're making a kimono. So this kimono is probably not the most accurate kimono. I want to thank Poppin' Atelier. I basically used her pattern and sort of altered it and made it all tiny, and also probably messed it up because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good at sewing, but I'm hemming every side. That's what I'm pointing to here. I'm just showing you. I hemmed everything, and I'm hot gluing some ribbon onto the inside of the kimono. By the way, you may have noticed that I edited in a slit to the back of the kimono. That is because this doll is going to be wearing wings, and I wanted her to be able to wear wings with her kimono, and I didn't think she could do that if the fabric was on top of the magnet, because we're going to be making wings out of a magnet. We're not there yet though. By the way, I keep talking about this doll like it's not two dolls. I'm just not used to making two dolls. I hot glued a bit of fancy ribbon onto the fronts of the kimono. Here's how they turned out after I glued on all the ribbon. I sewed the kimono up the side seam and then I flipped it, and boy, was it hard to flip. Oh my god, these sleeves. But I also left like a slit up the side of the kimono, and that's because she's gonna have a tail, and I want it to be able to like peek outside of the kimono. She also needs an obi. I think this is called an obi. It's the thing that like you wrap around the middle of the kimono. So I hemmed the top and the bottom. I gather stitched a couple of metallic strips of fabric to create ruffles, and then I sewed those to the top and the bottom of the obi. I wanted them to have a pretty big bow on the back of their obi, so I cut 2 pieces of bow looking fabric and then I sewed them good side to good side, flipped them, and I left a little hole, like I didn't sew the fabric up completely so that I could fill the bow with yarn fluff. Once I was done stuffing, I sewed the gap up. I originally painted a thin line onto each one of the obies, but decided I didn't like it, so I took a bit of ribbon and I hot glued that onto the middle. I sewed a little square of metallic fabric to the middle of the bow. I then sewed the bow to the back of the obi. I bought these little snow globe looking charms off of Amazon and I decided they would look really cute if I sewed them onto the obi, so I did. Now for more gather stitching of metallic fabric. So I gather stitched more metallic fabric to create more ruffles, and then I sewed those ruffles to the sleeves of the kimono. So the kimono that I made is too like tight and revealing, so I had to make like a dress. I probably should have remade the kimono, but I was like, no, we're not going to. So I made them 2 little dresses to put underneath their kimonos. This is probably not very like traditionally correct, but this is what my dolls are wearing, so they have a little dress underneath their kimono. Once I was done sewing up the dress, I also sewed a little underskirt. I made little pairs of socks, so I took this sock pattern and I folded it and then I sewed it up the side. Once I was done sewing, I flipped it. Onto the sandals. So I cut out a piece of warbler and I heated it up and formed it to the bottom of my doll's foot. By the way, I don't understand how people use warbler frequently. Like, I kind of hate using it because it burns the crap out of my fingers when I use it, because I have to hold the warbler super close to the blow dryer. And it sucks. So like, do you guys just have really burnt fingers? Does a heat gun like really help? Because I guess it's more precise than a blow dryer. Help a girl out. I don't know what I'm doing. I also made little platforms for these shoes with epoxy sculpt. To hold the sandal to the doll's foot, I took some flat wire and I wrapped that around the front of the sandal. Once the wire was formed, I took some hot glue and I glued the wire in place. To give some extra strength to that glue, I took my OOAK, I think that company name's so funny. It's epoxy glue, and I epoxy glued the wire to the base of the sandal. After all that work, we gotta paint the shoe, so I just painted it black with acrylic paint. I went over the top of the sandal with metallic watercolors. Moving on from the sandals, I wanted to finish her hair, so I got these 2 beads, well I guess it's 4 beads altogether, from my local bead store, and I basically rerouted a strand, or like a chunk of the hair, into the bead, and now she has beads in her hair. Once I rerouted it, I tied a little knot at the bottom, and they stay in place. We gotta give these demons some wings, so I took some more Warbler. Woo! I hate Warbler. I don't hate it, but how do you guys use it without burning your fingers? So I bent it in place, I bent it in the middle so that it would kind of hold the curved shape that I wanted. I bent each wing again so that it would curve in place. To form the top ridge of the wing, I took some epoxy sculpt, like a snake of it, and I just put that on top of the wing. To get the kind of finer or smaller sections of the bottom of the wing, I used wire and I glued that in place with Elmer's glue wall. To cover up the little bit of the wire that was overlapping with the ridge, I took a tiny bit of epoxy sculpt and just smoothed it out. To make these wings magnetic, I took a tiny bit of epoxy sculpt and I smushed a magnet into the middle of the wing. Now on to painting the wings. So I took some black acrylic paint and I painted the wings black, and I wanted to create a sort of metallic ombre from the bottom of the wings going up. This was very inspired by Nina's dolls on Instagram. I believe she 3D printed some resin wings for like BJDs, and they have like a really cool ombre to them, so this is very heavily inspired by that. I will link her down below, but I'm creating an ombre with my silver paint and then also the gold paint on the gold wings. How I'm doing this is I'm applying a ton of it to the bottom of the wings, and then I'm taking more water and sort of fading it up the wing. To get the wings to stay in place, I took some more epoxy and I mushed a magnet into the back of each one of the dolls. I smoothed it out as best I could. It's probably not the cutest effect, but it gets covered up with the kimono. You could also probably drill a really big hole into the doll, but that made me kind of nervous, so I didn't do that. I just put like a little mountain of epoxy and smushed a magnet in it. I painted over the epoxy off camera with acrylic paint in the skin tone, and look, they work. They're so cute. Like, I really like them. I want to play with magnets more. For the tail, I drilled a hole into like the upper butt area with my Dremel. To form the tail, I shaped a heart out of epoxy sculpt using an X-Acto blade, and then I put that on the top of a wire upside down. I paint the tail black with acrylic paint, and I did the same, like a sort of similar ombre thing that I did with the wings with the tail, where I did the top very pigmented with the gold or the silver, and then I faded it as it got to the base of the tail. I sanded the panties off of each one of the dolls, but for the deeper complected doll, the sand marks were really like ashy and gray toned, and to combat that and cover it, I just took some matte varnish and applied it to those areas. To blush the body, I used similar tones that I used on the face. I put their heads back on their blush bodies, and y'all, the tiniest of little things. They're so small and so cute and all blushed. I'm so here for them. To attach the tails, I'm using more of my OOAK. I don't know why this means. Like, what kind of name is that? OOAK epoxy glue. I put it into the hole that I drilled earlier, and I stuck the tails in. I also decided that they needed the tiniest of tiny fans, so I took this black paper and I basically doodled on it in gold and also in silver on the other one. And once I was done doodling on the one side, I painted the other side silver or gold or whatever color it was. I'm going to link the origami fan tutorial I used to make these tiny fans down below if you guys want to make yourself some tiny fans or some human-sized fans. Probably way easier. But this is how they turned out. I mean, they're kind of cute, little tiny little doot fans, you know. But this is the doll. I keep saying doll. I'm sorry. This is plural. There are two of them. These are the dolls with all of their accessories. And these are my little demon angel babies. Oh my goodness, you guys. I like the size of these. I'm obsessed with. They're the tiniest things. And I just really like the amount of detail that I got on their face and how their little outfits turned out. And I hope you guys enjoy them too. I also really like how they like feel different. Like I feel like the silver one feels very angry. Like she's the angry protective sister, and then the gold one is she's just sad. Like she's upset that she's a demon. She's gone through some stuff. I have to say, if I have a favorite, it's probably the gold one. Like she looks so upset. I just want to give her a hug. But anyway, I hope you guys like my 2 other Halloween videos that I'm going to be coming out with this month. If you like this video, subscribe. It makes me very happy. Stay safe, and I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Bye!